This is a story written by fun and scary folktales. Please subscribe to our channel. My beauty, my curse. Once upon a time, in a lively village nestled between rolling hills and lush green fields, there lived a girl named Abina. She was the kind of beauty that made heads turn and hearts skip a beat. Her skin glowed like the morning sun, her smile could melt the hardest of hearts, and her figure was a masterpiece sculpted by the gods themselves. She was only 17, but her charm and grace outshone women twice her age. Yet, Abina was not one to flaunt her beauty. She was humble, sweet, and kind-hearted, helping the elderly, playing with children, and treating everyone with respect. The village adored her, or so it seemed. Abina lived with her mother, Mama Kate, and her stepfather, Mr. Opia. Mr. Opia was a wealthy and respected man in the village, known for his sharp suits and silver tongue. People looked up to him, calling him a man of wisdom and honor. But behind closed doors, Mr. Opia was not the man he pretended to be. It all began one quiet afternoon. Abina was lying on the couch, reading a book, when Mr. Opia walked in. His eyes lingered a little too long, his gaze a little too intense. "Oh, Abina," he said, his voice smooth as honey. "You're growing into a fine young woman. Too fine for this small village." Abina shifted uncomfortably but smiled politely. "Thank you, sir," she replied, keeping her eyes on her book. But Mr. Opia wasn't done. He moved closer, sitting on the edge of the couch. "You know," he continued, "if I were younger, I'd have to fight off the men just to get your attention." His words felt wrong, but Abina didn't know how to respond. She laughed nervously and excused herself to the kitchen. It was the first of many encounters that would leave her feeling uneasy. As the weeks went by, Mr. Opia's behavior grew bolder. He'd find excuse to touch her, brushing his hand against her arm or resting it on her shoulder for just a little too long. One day, as Abina bent over to sweep under the table, she felt his hand on her lower back. She froze, her heart racing. "You've got to be careful bending over like that," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. "You'll drive a man crazy." Abina pulled away, her face burning with shame and anger. "Please don't do that," she said, her voice trembling. But Mr. Opia just laughed, a low, chilling sound. "Oh, come on, Abina. Don't act so innocent. You're a woman now." Night after night, it got worse. Mr. Opia would sneak into her room, whispering sweet but vile words, trying to coax her into silence. "You know you're special, don't you?" he'd say. "You're not like other girls. I could give you everything you've ever wanted." Abina's nights became a torment, her days filled with dread. She tried to tell her mother, but Mama Kate dismissed her with a wave of her hand. "Abina, stop making up stories," she said, her tone sharp. "Mr. Opia is a good man. Grateful. How could she be grateful for a man who turned her life into a nightmare?" Abina turned to the villagers, hoping for support, but their reactions were even worse. "Abina is always flaunting herself," one woman said. "Look at the way she walks, swaying her hips like that. She's asking for trouble." "Mr. Opia is a respected man," another added. "Why would he stoop so low? Abina must be lying." "She's too beautiful for her own good," a third chimed in. "She's a distraction to every man in this village." The gossip spread like wildfire, turning Abina into an outcast. Children whispered behind her back, women scowled at her, and men stared at her with a mix of desire and disdain. Her beauty, once a blessing, had become a curse. But Abina was not one to give up. She decided she would not let Mr. Opia or the villagers break her spirit. She started to speak out, confronting Mr. Opia in front of her mother. "Mama, he comes into my room at night," she said, her voice firm despite the tears in her eyes. "He touches me when you're not around. He says things no man should say to a girl. But Mama Kate refused to listen. Enough, Abina, she snapped. You're just trying to cause trouble. Mr. Opia loves us. He'd never do such a thing. Love? Abina thought bitterly. What kind of love destroys a person's soul? One night, as Mr. Opia crept into her room again, Abina made a decision. She would no longer be a victim. She waited until he was close, then screamed at the top of her lungs. The noise startled him, and he stumbled back, tripping over the chair by her bed. The commotion woke Mama Kate, who burst into the room. What is going on here? She demanded, her eyes darting between Abina and Mr. Opia. Ask him, Abina said, her voice steady. Ask him why he's in my room in the middle of the night. Caught off guard, Mr. Opia stammered, I heard a noise. I was just checking to make sure she was okay. Mama Kate's face hardened. Is that true, Abina? Abina met her mother's gaze, her eyes blazing with determination. No, it's not. He's lying. He's been doing this for months. For a moment, Mama Kate hesitated, doubt flickering across her face. But then she shook her head. I don't believe you. You're just trying to ruin us. The betrayal cut deeper than any of Mr. Opia's actions. Abina realized she was truly alone. But instead of breaking her, it ignited a fire within her. If no one would protect her, she'd protect herself. Abina left the village the next morning, her head held high despite the whispers and stares. She vowed never to let anyone control her again. Over time, she became known as Abina the ruthless girl, a woman who refused to bow to anyone. Her beauty became her armor, her strength a beacon for others who had suffered in silence. The villagers and even Mama Kate would come to regret their treatment of her. But by then, it was too late. Abina had moved on, leaving behind a legacy of resilience and courage that would be told for generations to come. Years later, stories of Abina's journey reached even the farthest corners of the land. She had built a life of her own, becoming a successful trader and advocate for women's rights. Her name carried weight, and her presence commanded respect. Whenever people spoke of her, it was with a mix of awe and regret. In her new home, Abina opened a center for young girls, offering them shelter, education, and the tools to fight against injustice. She taught them to stand tall, to use their voices, and to never let the world dim their light. For Abina, this was more than redemption, it was a purpose. Back in the village, Mama Kate grew older, weighed down by the guilt of her choices. She often sat by the window, staring at the road, hoping to catch a glimpse of the daughter she had lost. But Abina never returned, her heart too scarred to look back. One day, a young girl from the village came to Abina's center. She was timid and frightened, her story eerily similar to Abina's own. Abina knelt before her, holding her hands gently. You're safe here, she said, her voice steady and kind. No one will hurt you again. In that moment, Abina saw a reflection of her younger self, and she knew that her journey, every pain, every struggle had led her to this. She was no longer just Abina the ruthless girl. She was Abina the protector, a force to be reckoned with, and a beacon of hope for all who needed it. As the years stretched on, Abina's legacy only grew. She became a symbol of resilience and empowerment. A story mothers told their daughters to remind them of their worth. Abina had turned her pain into power and her heartbreak into hope. In her own way, she had won, and she made sure that no other girl would ever have to fight the battles. Please don't forget to like and comment on our videos. Subscribe to our channel and click on the notification button for all our posts. Thank you for watching.